Hey guys, this vid is going to give you a quick rundown of the two new 2018 freestyle frames, the Hyperlow CG and the Hyperlow Vert Freestyle. Contents are listed below in the description if you want to jump around, but first up I'm going to dive right into the Vert Freestyle frame. So this is the big brother of the Vert Racer that was released late last summer. It basically has the same design approach, but it's adapted to carry a GoPro, larger batteries, and larger electronics. I spoke in a previous video on how the Vert design came about, but I'll do a quick recap and then introduce you to the new features on this one. So in short, it's a low profile, stretched X, vertical arm, mid-mount freestyle frame. So this arm design was conceived by Bob Ruge while we were putting our heads together on how to most efficiently introduce a vertical arm. It's a two-piece stacked arm with the motor mount being cut from the top and the bottom adding support. This avoids the need for extra aluminium pieces and hardware, which is usually seen on a single-piece vert arm, and it still provides the same profile and the benefit of cleaner thrust and less weight and complication. It also perfectly suits the Hyperlow because the arms act as standoffs. This is whether it's 10mm as seen here or with the 15mm setup, which uses the included 5mm carbon spaces. It's still a micro or mini cam only frame. The mounts for those are included, and it now has room for a GoPro, whereas the Vert Racer did not. This couch is included too. So with the main body being lengthened, there is much more room inside, so you can fit more than just a micro receiver. On mine, I'm running the larger Crossfire, which sits right behind the camera right here, along with a Unify, SpedX 4-in-1, and Revolt, and there's plenty of room to spare for an easy build. So to avoid the straps running through the frame or over the electronics, this strap plate has been borrowed from the Unibody series from last year. So basically this plate sits on top and allows you to slide straps easily underneath it, giving you a little mounting platform, and it has a custom cut battery pad on top to give some grip and to stop everything sliding around. It even allows you to run a battery strap from front to the middle, so you can laterally mount your battery. And this is also joined by an SMA antenna pad underneath here, which gives a little bit added protection and isolation. Also underneath are press nut assembly, which is pre-installed, and a replaceable camera plate up front. This is a feature which is on all Hyperlow frames, and it avoids you having to replace the entire bottom plate if you are unlucky enough to smash the front end. Just a quick replacement there, 2 screws, and that's it. So also in the bag, the kit bag, are antenna mounts, straws, caps, zip ties, hardware for a 15mm build. As you can see here, I'm running, there's 2 pairs of antenna mounts. There's the angle pair and the horizontal pair. I've got one of each here with the caps and straws. Also ships with 3 straps, 2 for the battery and one for the GoPro. And then you can see the 5mm spaces here, which give you an extra little bit of lift to run a double stack. Frame weight will depend on the hardware used, but you're looking around 120 grams for a 15mm build right here. This is 335 grams as seen right here. And one extra little feature is being able to use these spaces to mount the arms on different planes, so you can get rid of a little bit of prop wash by raising up the rear arms, as you can see I've done here. So I think that about covers the basics of this frame. It's definitely a little different than most out there, and I will talk a little bit more about its performance later in the video in comparing it to the top mount CG. But its main draw is its solidly centralized mass. This battery placement keeps everything nice and tight and in the prop plane, making it effortlessly smooth to fly, and it gives it a larger tuning window also. So its performance goals are very similar to the Remix, but the main difference is this being a stretched X and also having vertical arms. So with all that covered, if you don't think you're ready for the performance-oriented mid-mount or want to try one without fully committing to it, then this next release is probably for you. This is the Hyperlow CG. As you can see, we're returning to the more classic top mount design. This frame, however, has been completely reworked. It has been simplified and refined in a way in which every part kind of works together in harmony to make it much more versatile than it may look. That will make more sense when I dive into the new arm design and the mounting system inside, but I will cover just the basics first. It's a 5-inch and it's a 6-inch low-profile True-X top-mount freestyle frame. It has extra matte chamfered carbon and 4mm tapered arms. This is the new 2mm triple strap top plate with a flared rear end and battery pad. Included is the GoPro mount, and there is also room to mount any size camera, from full to micro to mini, with TPU mounts for all sizes included in the kit. Underneath, we have a 3mm replaceable camber plate as standard with Hyperlow, and pre-installed press nuts on a 3mm main plate, and everything is chamfered. At the rear, there's also a mounting point for pigtail antenna with a protective pad also. The kit includes both 10mm and 15mm hardware for either an all-in-one or a stack build, or you can build higher with any standoff height you want to choose. So in general, the look has been greatly updated, from the design aesthetic to the clean press nut assembly and this silky chamfered carbon. I don't know if this matte is showing up as nice as in real life, but it really is a beautiful finish. Where this frame really starts to set itself apart though is on the inside. For the first time, you're not being presented with an empty cavity and left to figure out where to fit or how to mount your components. Each piece of electronic equipment has its own mounting spot, making this super build friendly. And this all starts with the frame layout itself. It's designed around the FC mounting pattern, which doesn't just exist in the center, it exists all the way down the frame. And this provides a horizontal map for all your electronics, so you're building down the frame instead of up, which is a perfect fit for a low profile top mount design. And attaching itself to these FC patterns and the peripheral mounting points here is the new 4 mounting point arm. So this gives a lot of extra rigidity, making it seriously as stiff and as tight a fit as a unibody is. There's seriously no give. And the arm is shaped in a way which distributes stress onto the inside of the frame instead of just keeping everything short on the outside, which helps it keep super strong, and it provides a spot to mount these component plates on top. So this gives you a space to either zip tie or double side tape your electronics to, and keeps them isolated and lifted off of the carbon. Having the components lifted also allows you to route wires underneath, so you can feed them down underneath and run them front to back without getting in the way of your stack, going over and under your FC and getting disruption towards your gyro. And if you've noticed these strap holes in the bottom plate, this in conjunction with the raised mounting plates will also allow you to feed a strap through the main body without disrupting any of the components on the inside or weakening the frame. So what that means, if you're familiar with last year's unibody series, is that you can then invert the frame by removing the removable camera plate, flipping everything over. So just like the Vert Racer and the Vert Freestyle, you now have a mid-mount frame with modular arms. So everything's working together to give you a really easy way to bring this design about without a lot of extra carbon, without a lot of extra weight. It's just been super simplified. And so this has the same performance as a mid-mount Freestyle, except it's now a True-X. So now you're seeing why the frame is called the CG, because you have completely control over the center of gravity. You can go from 20mm plus build height down to 10 to 15 to a true mid-mount, which lets the battery sit securely in the prop plane. And I'll explain the differences in flight performances of those later on. But now I will just show you the an example of how the electronics can be laid out. So this is the 6-inch version, which is also immediately available. You can see you got the camera sitting up front. This is a full size. Then receiver behind it, double stack with a bolt and revolt in the center. And then you can see the reason for the flared top plate at the end. This opens up the 2 rear points to mount in this case, Maytag VTX, but you can also mix things up and use a FC or even a 4-in-1 if you wanted to play around with the order of the electronics. And I have the camera cable running underneath the frame, not through the stack. So everything's just nice and neat, easy to build, easy to work on, and there's just no confusion. So also in the kit, take a quick look at the box. It ships with 3 battery straps. We have hardware. This is the GoPro mount, TPU for all the mounting points, FPV cams and antennas, zip tie, antenna straws, mounting plates here, battery pad and landing pads, and then the carbon underneath. And the weight for this is around 120 grams depending on which hardware set you use. I think my 6-inch right here is about 340. Yeah, this is around 340 dry as is with GoPro mount. I have a year's worth of sales data at this point, which indicated that this combination of plate thicknesses was what most people wanted to fly. I've had that Hyperlow modular available for as light as 95 grams up to 120 grams with various plate and arm thickness choices. And by far the most popular build choice was the extra durable 120 gram 4mm version, which is why this frame exists. It's rugged enough to withstand plenty of abuse, and this tapered arm design gives it a little bit of extra strength coming towards the main plate, which also sets itself apart from most of the other similar frames on the market, which just have straight arms all the way down to the center. So, how do these frames perform? The whole design approach behind Hyperlow frames has been to make battery placement a priority. Your battery can be up to 40% of your quad's all-up weight in some instances, and where this weight is placed significantly affects its handling. It's pretty unanimous that top-mounted batteries have become the go-to choice for freestyle. I think every major freestyle frame at this point is a top mount, so it's a solid indication that weight distribution has been accepted to play a crucial role in how your quad flies. Basically, top mounts hold their pitch and their altitude very, very well. You need minimal adjustment to keep it nice and smooth. There's no bobbing or pitch compensation needed compared to flying a bottom mount, say. You get a very locked in feel, which makes it much easier to get smooth, stable, and predictable footage because they track so well, which is perfect for the freestyle video aesthetic. Now, to give a very simple example of how battery placement and CG plays its role, you can just do a simple experiment by putting your arms fully out in front of you and then rotating them left to right at your core, and just feeling the effort that it takes to stop your movement and change its direction. Now cross your arms to your chest and do the same left to right movement, and you can just feel how little effort is required to perform the same movement. And this is exactly how it feels to lower the CG on your frame. And this is exactly how it feels on the sticks. But at the end of the day, our quads are still relying on pure power for their performance. With a 10-to-1 thrust to weight ratio, you can almost overrule any suggestions on how your quad wants to fly. But these suggestions are still being made. And if you're looking for that extra little bit of control and smooth performance, you should definitely be feeling out and understanding the suggestions that your frame is making through its motor layout and through its battery placement. A quick video I can show here is when running a quick slalom with both the top mount CG and the mid mount Vert. Identical setups, same tune, same firmware, same props. You can just see how the 15mm top mount is affected a little more by its higher load, as it's skidding out a little when rounding the columns. But with a little compensation on the sticks, this type of movement can be smoothened out, but it still requires a little bit more power and effort. But throwing the mid-mount through the same slalom, however, you can just see how easily it rocks straight through with no correction or overruling needed. The difference can then be seen upon the exit. I was able to slam on the throttle without any need for preemptive pitch input, and have the top mount CG hold its altitude pretty much perfectly. But for the mid mount, I was needing to pitch down a little just to get the same result. Again, same tunes, same setup, same props, just showing you how these small alterations in shape and CG will affect how these frames fly. But again, when it comes down to it, both setups are equally capable of very smooth freestyle flight. In my experience, I would personally recommend a mid-mount setup if you like a lot of high diving and looping and schizo style trailer park flight. But if you like to default to ground cruise, if you like to track long distance, or if you want to be filming follow footage or anything like that, then a top mount is probably going to be a better choice. But as I mentioned, you can pretty much make them fly how you want. They just have an easier time flying a certain way. So the Vert Freestyle is going to be very similar performer to Umagard's Remix and last year's Hyperlow Unibody, as is the CG in its mid-mount setup. And that's all down to shared frame orientation and battery placement. But the top mount CG is going to be more comparable to the Stingy, to the Astro X, the Chameleon, the Rooster, Reverb, and the rest of them. This differs from some of those in being a true X motor layout, which I much prefer over the squashed X. In my experience, you can hold a steeper roll and carve much easier, especially when combined with a lower CG. With this frame, you also get down to a 10mm build height, even with a full-size camera, which is at least twice as low as the others I've mentioned. As far as price, both of these two new releases are available now for $75, which is going to be quite a bit less than all the other premium frames at this point. That's not a reflection on quality. This is a very high quality frame. Both of them are, with plenty of extras. I've just done as much as possible in-house to keep the prices low. And if that's still on the high side for you, then the original Hyperlow Modular is now available for $50. This will give you pretty much identical top mount performance. It has a 3mm kit for lighter park flying, and is the original inspiration for the X-Hover Stingy frame. I showed a prototype of this to Kevin early on, and he was stoked on the idea of the lowered top mount, and now Schizo's caught the bug too, and his Nova is pretty much identical to this layout, with the only difference I can see being titanium hardware and the arm spikes, but you can of course print some out yourself. So this is going to be half the price of the Nova, and also can do 10mm, 15mm, or 20mm build heights with 6-inch arm option also available. So I think that about covers everything for this video. Thank you for watching, and I appreciate anyone who picked up a Hyperlow frame last year. I've spent most of my time designing, shipping, and occasionally flying, so I appreciate you having found your way to these frames on Pyroflip or the hyperlowframes.com website, all despite my non-existent advertisement. But I've already been working to make these frames even more accessible to new retailers and reviewers worldwide this year, so stay tuned for that. And any questions, please leave below, or you can send me a message to hyperlowframes@gmail.com, hyperlowframes on Instagram, or join the Hyperlow pilot page on Facebook. Thank you guys.